Looks like we got people traveling. It's a little thin today. You said thin on humans today? We're a little thin on humans today? We're thankful for the ones that are here for sure. We're excited to get to continue our study today in 2 Samuel. It's been a blessing to me getting back in this material and getting into the story more. We're talking a lot of names in there, a lot of names, especially in these first couple of chapters here. Before we start, are there any prayer requests? We of course know that our sister Diane Goebel just passed away this weekend. If you didn't know that yet, text flock note went out, but want to keep all of that family in our prayers. Diane Goebel is special to me. We have had the opportunity to go sing Christmas carols to our shut-ins for several years in a row. And first year we went to her house, walked in, and I thought I'd just introduce myself. You know, I want to be friendly, I want to be neighborly. So I go up and I go, I'm Gary Flenniken. She goes, I know who you are. You're the one that I have to turn the TV down every time you come on. You're so loud. Special place in my heart. I love that story. So we want to keep the Goebel family in our prayers. Let's start with a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, dear Lord, we're in awe of your grace and of your power. We're so thankful, dear Lord, that you give us this time to come together in a country where it's okay for us to say your name, for it's okay for us to gather and to worship you. Dear Heavenly Father, we are so blessed to be here this morning. Thank you for this opportunity. Dear Lord, as we get into your word, let us look not just for information, but for transformation. And dear Lord, please, please don't let this messenger get in the way, but let your word come through. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I'm going to tell you a true story this morning. Not that the stories I tell aren't true, but some are made up in fiction. This one's true, and sometimes a fictional story is funnier than a true story. Back in 1859 on San Juan Island, the United States and our dearest friends, those people we fought a war against for a revolution, Britain. So the U.S. and the U.K. are sharing the San Juan Island. And when I say sharing, I kind of mean like three brothers with one remote control, right? They're sharing. Somebody's about to snap, but they're sharing. And that's the case that was happening right now. So there's an American farmer. His name is Lyman Cutler. And there's a pig. There's a big old fat British pig owned by the Hudson Bay Company. Now this pig had bad habits. This pig had bad habits. See, trespass on other people's land, eat their vegetables that didn't belong to him. I'm talking about it. Tomatoes are gone. Potatoes are gone. Cabbage, they're gone. Whatever it was, this pig was eating it like he was a big pig. One morning, Lyman walks outside, coffee in hand, looks at his garden. There's that pig, eating on his vegetables. Not today, pig. Not today. Instead of thinking about it, instead of talking to his neighbor about his pig, instead of building a fence, he grabbed his rifle. He said, Mama, we having pork chops tonight. And he shot that pig. Dead. Right then, right there. Now, at this point, you may be thinking, this story is about somebody that made a hasty decision. No. This story is going to be about pride. It's going to be about pride. This story is all about pride because the British owners said, you owe me for that pig. To which Lyman said, that pig was an illegal immigrant in my property. Now is when the overreaction happens. Now is when the pride pours in. Because the next thing you know, both governments are involved. Before anybody can say, y'all just need to calm down, 400 plus American troops rally. 5 British warships show up, pointing 70 cannons, bringing 2,000 British troops, going, God save the pig! We fix to get roughy. We're going to get rowdy in here. It's a war. The whole thing becomes known, and you can look it up in history, as the Pig War. Here's my favorite part. Nobody dies. Nobody dies. No shots were ultimately fired between the nations. No heroic battles. The only casualty was the pig. Now, the Pig War finally ended. This this little dust-up, this little skirmish, this little war finally ended through diplomatic arbitration led by Germany. Don't they start wars? This little dust-up over the pig finally ended in diplomatic arbitration led by Germany after a 12-year militarized standoff on the island of San Juan. That's kind of cool. I couldn't even make that story up. Let's have a big fight over a pig. Oh, over pride. If you did wrong, I didn't do wrong. No, you did wrong, I didn't do. Pride. 12 years they stand off. And that battle that started over what kind of seems like shouldn't have been that big a deal, or what shouldn't have happened in the first place, kind of reminds me of where we're moving in 2 Samuel. What we talked about a couple of weeks ago in 2 Samuel, because in 2 Samuel 2, you got Abner and Joab standing across from each other, and Abner's pride, well, he wants a little contest. Let's let the young man get up and compete before us. Y'all remember that in 2 Samuel a couple of weeks ago? Let's let the young men get up and compete before us. So they each pick 12, and the 12 of each side gets up there, and they kill each other. 24 people dead immediately, just like that. That turns into a battle. Battle turns into a chase, and that chase turns into more killing. And before you know it, you've got a full-blown battle that becomes a full-blown war between the house of Saul and the house of David. All because Abner's pride suggested, hey, why don't we have a little contest between the boys? As we open up 2 Samuel today, we're going to continue to see the author make his point as he goes through here. He devotes 4 chapters to the 7.5 years after Saul dies and before David becomes the unified king over a unified nation. It's 7.5 years. And half of this portion of these chapters is going to focus on Abner. Now, I grew up in the church. I have seen every felt board with every little felt character you can imagine. I don't remember seeing an Abner character. He's in half of this 7.5 year time period. He's a major character, and I didn't see a little Abner felt post, but we should make one. He's mentioned briefly in 1 Samuel. He is the son of Ner. That's Saul's uncle back in 1 Samuel 14 and 50. Saul and Abner, first cousins. They probably grew up together. You know cousins. They probably grew up together. And he's commander in Saul's army. When Saul dies, he kind of takes over. If you remember 2 weeks ago after Saul's death, Abner made Saul's youngest son, Ish-bosheth, king of Israel in the northern region. Clearly, Abner has considerable influence. He has considerable power. He is a capable and resourceful commander. He's making things happen. He has influence. He has power. But he's a man driven by his own desires. He's a man driven by his own pride. He lives, as best we can tell, without a relationship with God, without relying on God. So we have Ish-bosheth, the son of Saul. He's ruling Israel. He's in the north, with Abner being his commander, his general, his number one guy. And David is ruling Judah in the south, with Joab being his commander, his number one guy. The author tells us in chapter 2 that Abner came up with the suggestion to have these 12 young men fight together. Why? Why did they do that? What possible purpose could that have served? When we read the story 2 weeks ago, it sounded like it was for entertainment purposes. You know, we're sitting on our side, you're sitting on your side. Why don't we just get 12 of them together and they'll wrestle, they'll battle. It's a contest. It sounds like they're doing it for entertainment purposes. Maybe he's doing it because of his ego. Maybe he's doing it to show off. Maybe it's to prove that his boys are better fighters than the other boys. Any of them are possible. Still a bad plan. Joab agrees. He agrees that, yeah, let's do that. Maybe his pride was on the line too. 2 generals, 2 sides of the army, 2 egos. I don't know. You don't want to lose face in front of your men? You got pride on both sides of the equation, and 24 young men die. We discussed that contest at length last time. We went into great deal in that event because it led to enmity that's going to last between these two groups. It was a foolish thing they did. It was a prideful pig war that these two guys started right there in chapter 2. What resulted is a very angry Ashel, that's Joab's brother, on David's house that pursued after Abner. And he ran after Abner. Abner told him, turn left, turn right. He said, no, I'm not going to. So Abner stopped and he killed him. He killed the brother of the commander on the other side. Surely that won't cause any problems in the future. I mean, no foreshadowing for us here, right? Yeah, that's going to be an issue. So a foolish, prideful contest turned into serious consequences. And Ashel's sibling Joab pursued Abner till finally Abner called out to him and said, we can't fight. Really? We should have thought of that at the beginning. We can't. So they stopped for a minute. And the war between the house of Saul and the house of David seems like maybe at that moment, maybe when Abner's on the run and when Joab stops, maybe calmer heads will prevail. Maybe that one dust-up, that one skirmish, that one battle, maybe they'll come together and they'll apologize for their own wrongdoings. Maybe. Then we turn the page. Chapter 3. Chapter 3 begins, the war between the house of Saul and the house of David lasted a long time. David grew stronger and stronger while the house of Saul grew weaker and weaker. We're going to continue reading right there in 2 Samuel 3. Picking up again in verse 1, the war between the house of Saul and the house of David lasted a long time. David grew stronger and stronger while the house of Saul grew weaker and weaker. Drop into verse 6. During the war between the house of Saul and the house of David, Abner had been strengthening his own position in the house of Saul. Now Saul had a concubine named Rizpah, daughter of Eliah, and Ishbosheth said to Abner, "Why did you sleep with my father's concubine?" Abner was very angry because of what Ishbosheth said. So he answered it, "Am I a dog's head on Judah's side? This very day I'm loyal to the house of your father Saul and to his family and friends. I haven't handed you over to David, yet now you accuse me of offense involving this woman. May God deal with Abner, be it ever so severely, if I do not do for David what the Lord promised him on oath, and transfer the kingdom from the house of Saul and establish David's throne over Israel and Judah from Dan to Beersheba." Bosheth did not dare to say another word to Abner because he was afraid of him. Abner does his own thing. You get that when we're reading about it? He does his own thing. He just said he knows what's right here. He knows what's right. David is to be the ruler. He quotes it right there. In threatening his king that he propped up, that he made, he tells him what God's plan is. Abner knows what's right. He hadn't chosen to do what's right, but he knows what's right. He knows that God has ordained David to be king, but Abner is driven by his own gains, by his own pride. He did whatever Abner needed to strengthen his own position. Abner has so much power, even the king over Israel is afraid of him. The Bible says he's afraid of him. Ishbosheth is a puppet king. The true power lies in Abner. Abner placed him on the throne, and Abner tells him, quite frankly, "I'll take you off of it. I put you there, I can take you off of it." No one dared to tell Abner off. No one dared to mock him like the king just did. He threatened the king, and no action happened against him. He's the power. And Abner's pride is as big as Abner's power. He told the king he could easily switch sides and make David king over Israel. Now, I've read a lot of different history, and I've seen a lot of different things. There's not a lot of time in history where the king gets threatened that you're going to commit treason, and that turns out okay. But Abner wasn't afraid of it. He knows who he is, and he knows who Ishbosheth is. Listen to how Abner put it here, verse 8 and verse 10. I haven't handed you over to David. Man, that's a terrible threat. And transfer the kingdom from the house of Saul and establish David's throne over Israel and Judah from Dan to Beersheba. You hear the arrogance in that? To the king. You hear the arrogance? You hear the pride? It's all in his hands. It's all about what Abner can do, about what he can do. See what I can do? It's pride. And then he makes good on his threats. Continue with me, 2 Samuel 3, starting in 12. Then Abner sent messengers on his behalf to say to David, whose land is it? Make an agreement with me, and I will help you bring all Israel over to you. Good, said David. I'll make an agreement with you, but I demand one thing of you. Do not come into my presence unless you bring Michal, daughter of Saul, when you come to see me. Then David sent a message to Ishbosheth, son of Saul, demanding, give me my wife Michal, whom I betrothed to myself for the price of 100 Philistine foreskins. So Ishbosheth gave orders and had her taken away from her husband Patel, son of Lish. Her husband, however, went with her, weeping behind her all the way to Bahurim. Then Abner said to him, go back home. So he went back home. Here again is the arrogance of Abner. He reaches out to David. He doesn't reach out on behalf of the king. He's not asking for a truce in this war that's going on between these families. No, he's reaching out behind. He's reaching out to make an agreement. I will bring Israel to you. I'll deliver to you this kingdom. I will give it to you. Abner says, I will give it to you. Essentially, I made this guy king, I'll make you king. How's that sound? Abner's like, I'm coming. I'm going to make a deal. I'm going to give you what you want. I'm going to do it. And David said, that's fine, but bring me my wife that I paid for, that was stricken from me. Bring me my wife. And he does, at the same time, request from Ishbosheth. So Ishbosheth's looking at this. Maybe he's thinking, maybe this is a way to appease the guy, right? It started with David getting stronger and Ishbosheth getting weaker. Maybe he's thinking, I'll give him his wife back. Maybe we make a truce. He doesn't know what Abner's doing. But he sends Abner with David's wife to take David's wife back. So now Abner, he's got cover for why he's going to see David. It sounds pretty smart. It sounds pretty reasonable. You escort her back to David. If I'm Ishbosheth, I'm thinking, I am making an appeasement here. Maybe we can end this war. If I'm Abner, I'm thinking, we were going to do this anyway. I'm glad you agree. Right? He's doing his own thing. Picking up the story in verse 17. Abner conferred with the elders of Israel and said, for some time you've wanted to make David your king. Now do it. For the Lord promised David, by my servant David, I will rescue my people of Israel from the hand of the Philistines and from the hand of all their enemies. Abner also spoke to the Benjamites in person. Then he went to Hebron to tell David everything that Israel and the whole tribe of Benjamin wanted to do. When Abner, who had 20 men with him, came to David at Hebron, David prepares a feast for him and his men. Then Abner said to David, let me go at once and assemble all of Israel for my lord the king, so that they may make a covenant with you, and that you may rule over all that your heart desires. So David sent Abner away, and he went in peace. Abner met with all the tribes of Israel, with all the leaders of the tribes of Israel. He met with Benjamin, and to convince them. Particularly it pulls out Benjamin. Why? Because he's a Benjamite. He's the cousin of Saul. Saul's a Benjamite. He's a Benjamite. He met with his people as the leader of his people to talk to his tribe and talk to all the tribes. Here's what we need to do. Y'all know David's the true king. Who said, well, why have you been having us follow Saul? I bet nobody did, right? He's a powerful guy. He said, this is what we're going to do, and they're kind of agreeing, okay, this is what we're going to do. And he's throwing God's words in there. Man, that's a scary thing for anybody who teaches or anybody who preaches. You got to be careful how you use God's words, right? God means one thing, and if we twist it to mean what I want, that's a whole different thing. Abner's taken the words of God, which are pure and true and wonderful and awesome. And David's going to be king over Israel. It's been promised. Now he's using them for his benefit. You guys know David's supposed to be king. Come on, let's go ahead and do this. And he's doing all of this behind the back of his own king. He's doing all of this in a form of a coup d'etat, to take over, to depose his king. In Abner's mind, he's the true power in Israel anyway, so why not, right? This other guy's my puppet. When I'm done, not only will I have all of the northern tribes, I'll have the southern tribes, and David will now be my puppet. I can see reasoning in his head like that. Why? Because I've read enough history to see that happen before. Since then, but before when I read it, right? I can understand that's what he's doing here. He's driven by his own ambitions. He's driven by pride. His side is weakening. If his side loses, will Abner be in power? No. You know what we did to the generals when we took over the Japanese fleet, their admirals? You know what we did to the generals in Europe after VE Day when we took over? Yeah, that's what Abner's worried about. My side's weakening, their side's strengthening. When they roll through here, they're going to take all of us out. If I, as a kingmaker already, make David king over everything, I'll be the one pulling David's strings just like I pull Ishbosheth's strings. Focus is on Abner. Focus on his own Abner. He's using God's words and focused on Abner. His ambition, his pride. That's what's showing here. Not loyalty to Ishbosheth, not loyalty to David, loyalty to Abner. He may even be thinking, I'll probably not only have the power behind the throne, but I'll probably be the number one guy. If I deliver all of this, I'll be the number one guy. May not even be thinking about Joab anymore. May be all about him, not worried about Joab. I don't know, it doesn't say that. But I don't get the feeling they can coexist. There's a little anger between these two guys. I don't get the feeling they can coexist. But his actions show that he's not worried about Joab. He's not worried about him at all. He's in control. I mean, he's Abner. Who's going to mess with him? Just look at who he is. He's the one that set up the north. He's the one that's now bringing the north to David. He's the one. He's the guy. What could possibly happen to him? He's Abner, the kingmaker. That's who he is. Man, it's easy for me to get in his head. Look at what he's doing and where he's going. It's easy to look at that. In his mind, and in reality, as far as earthly things go, he's the power in Israel. Continuing in verse 22. Just then David's men and Joab returned from a raid and brought with them a great deal of plunder. But Abner was no longer with David in Hebron because David had sent him away and he had gone in peace. When Joab and all the soldiers with him arrived, he was told that Abner, son of Ner, had just come to the king and that the king had sent him away and that he had gone in peace. So Joab went to the king and said, "What have you done? Look, Abner came to you. Why did you let him go? Now he's gone? You know Abner, son of Ner? He came to deceive you and to observe your movements, find out everything you're doing." Joab then left David and sent messengers after Abner, and they brought him back from the cistern at Sirah. But David didn't know anything about it. Now when Abner returned to Hebron, Joab took him aside into an inner chamber, as if to speak with him privately. And there, to avenge the blood of his brother Ashel, Joab stabbed him in the stomach and he died. To Joab, the main obstacle in ruling all of Israel is Abner. We've been talking about Abner's pride up to this very moment. And you can still dust a little Abner's pride in there. He went into a private meeting with the guy who he killed his brother. You can dust a little pride in there. Obviously, I'm Abner. I have an agreement with your king. You want to talk to me? That's fine. We'll meet in private. You don't go in private with somebody after you killed their son, their brother. It seemed like a bad plan, right? But he did. That's his pride talking. Now Joab's pride is there. I'll take him down. I'll eliminate him. I'll remove him from the house of Saul, thus making it easy for us to take over the house of Saul. Joab believed that Abner came with bad intentions. He's not here for any good. He's here on his own plans. He always has his own plans. Last time I met with him, he killed my brother. I'm going to do what needs to be done. I'm going to take care of this matter right here, right now. Pretend like I just want to talk to him. I'm going to take him to a private place away from his 20 men that he traveled with, and I'm going to end it right now. Because I know better than the king knows. Obviously, David couldn't tell that Abner is here to check him out and to see his defenses. Obviously, David doesn't have all the information. Obviously, David made a bad decision. I'm going to fix that because I'm Joab and I'm the commander of the army, and obviously I know what's right to do. So he takes him aside and he kills him. Vengeance is a part of that. Maybe jealousy is a part of that. He wants to make sure he's removed from the equation before the country's united. There's no room in Joab's mind for David to be in control, for David to be the king. He's now took it on himself. The king has sent this man away in peace. Said it twice in the section we wrote. King has sent him away in peace. Now Joab has murdered him. Took the matter in his own hands because he knows better. That's pride. And the tragic death of Abner, a man of pride, was killed in a tragic act by a man of pride. We study these stories not because they're stories, not because they're history. I read history because I like reading history. But we study these stories and we go back and read history and we study these things because we see patterns. We look for patterns and we see fallacies in patterns that hopefully we don't bring into our own life. We look at this story and we see pride glaring at us from all the main characters in the story. Pride. Right up on display, right up there in front of each other. Abner is a man of prestige, a man of power, man of position, but he takes pride in all those things. He thinks, I can do whatever I want. Joab is a man of power, a man of prestige, a commander of the army of David. He takes pride and decides, I can do whatever I want. I can do whatever I want. Abner's happy to take up arms against God's anointed until he wants to use the story of God's anointed to now circumvent his king to take up that king. Joab is okay doing all the good work for David until David doesn't agree with his opinion, so he takes matter into his own hands. Pride is facing against pride. Abner shows no regard for God or for the plans of God. Joab shows no regard for God or the plans of God. They take matters into their own hands. Abner's concerned with the plans of Abner. Joab's concerned with the plans of Joab. And Abner, he's just going to set up a puppet king anyway. That's what he did before. It's what he's going to do again. Joab's just going to take Abner out of the picture because he doesn't agree with what his king has said. It's what he's going to do. Proverbs 14:12 said, there's a way that seems right to a man, but in the end it leads to death. Proverbs 14:27 says, the fear of the Lord is a fountain of life, turning a man from the snares of death. I don't read where either one of these two guys sought God's direction in what they did. That's kind of where it all comes back to. We read all about Saul when we studied in 1 Samuel. And how at the very beginning he was God's man. He was picked by God. There was even a time where he prophesied. That's how much of God's man he was. And then he turned, and how he turned was in his pride to no longer seek what God wanted before he acted. And now we've come all the way to 2 Samuel, and Abner, most powerful guy in the region, right? Israel's like this, Judah's like this. Most powerful guy in the region is acting and making decisions against his own king without consulting God at any point. And Joab, the commander under David, is acting and making decisions on his own without consulting with God any. And their actions continue the war, continue the problem, exasperate the problem. They think they are in control. And that's the problem with pride. We think that we are in control. I heard about a man who was prideful in his own home. He comes home and the grass is mowed and it looks good and the cars are clean, and walks in and the house is clean. Smell that supper cooking. He sits down in his big recliner and he reaches over and his wife hands him the remote control. He looks over his kingdom from the throne of his lazy boy. And he goes, what will I watch tonight? And his wife goes, no. And he goes, that's what I was thinking. He has the remote control. He's got the scepter of power right in his hand right there. But he's not in control. He's not the one that was in charge. He's holding the symbol of power, but he's not calling the shots. That's Abner. Abner thinks he's in control because he's the kingmaker. He's got the scepter of power right here. He's got his hand up his puppet holding that scepter of power. He thinks he's in control. He's running the remote control. He's doing what he wants to do. He's in charge in his own mind, in his own opinion, sitting in his own lazy boy, while God is the one that's in control of all the actions that are happening. He's following His purpose, not God's purpose. And that's defined as pride. That's what that's defined as. He's trying to control the outcome. He's even using God's words to control the outcome for His glory, for His purpose. In contrast, the author continues to give us contrast. We have David. We have David. David isn't grabbing for power. David is patient as what God has promised is coming to him. What God has promised is coming to him. He didn't force the moment. He didn't kill Abner the moment he saw him. He didn't force it. He's patient. These 4 chapters, he's going to wait 7.5 years. Saul's going to be dead now 7.5 years before David finally takes over the whole kingdom like God promised decades earlier. Patience, waiting on God. Sometimes pride is why we think we can hold the remote control. Sometimes pride is why we think that we're in charge. But the only true life that works, the only true life that matters, is one where we acknowledge that God is the one with the remote control. He is the true king. We're not kingmakers. We're not puppeteers. Guess what? We're the puppets. We're the ones that do what the Maker wants us to do. We're the ones that need to give up our pride to be able to do. Life can be complete. Life can be powerful. Life can be amazing. But not without God. Not without God. It doesn't matter if you rise to the leader of the whole country. If you don't have God, It doesn't matter. The truth is everyone is driven by something. All of us. We suffer with our moments of pride. That moment of pride. Dr. James Dobson, the founder of Focus on the Family, Dr. James Dobson, shared this. He said, when I was in college, my goal was to become the school tennis champion. And I worked hard, and I became the champion for the whole school. He said, I felt proud that my trophy was prominently placed in the school's trophy cabinet. Years later, he received a package in the mail, and he opened the package, and it's that trophy. The school was undergoing renovation, and somebody found his trophy in the trash and thought they'd send it to him. Dr. Dobson said, given enough time, all your trophies will be trashed by somebody else. The things we accomplish on this earth is rubbish when they're done. The only thing that lasts is what we do for God because of God. Right? God can use somebody else. If I say no, He will use somebody else. The only thing that lasts are the things we do for God because of God. We are put on this earth not for our own glory. We're put on this earth to prepare for eternity. Service with God for eternity starts with service for God today. That's why we're here. We're going to see Him one day, and He's going to ask us an account of what we did. Your will is kind of what we hope to be able to answer. Forget that. Don't even hope that. Just let Jesus speak for me. I have the right to remain silent. I better use that. I have the right. I don't always have the ability. But I have the right. Let Jesus speak for me there. C.S. Lewis wrote, aim at heaven and you will get earth thrown in. Aim at earth, you'll get neither. Pride is a battle I face. Pride's a battle we all face. Sometimes it looks loud, just like Diane thinks I'm loud. Sometimes pride is loud and it's big and it's boisterous. It's like proving a point. It's winning an argument. It's taking control. Sometimes pride is big. Sometimes pride is quiet. And it's soft. Just wanting things my own way. Just take my board game and go home. Sometimes it's in our time and in our terms. That's how our pride is quiet and takes up. Abner shows us what happens when pride drives the story, grasping for control, trying to be the power behind the throne. But David shows us a better way, a better path, a life not driven by ego, but driven by divine purpose, seeking God, trusting God, moving when God says move. I think I've heard it said best this way, simple and true. Just let go and let God. Just let go and let God. Because when pride lets go, His purpose takes over. And that's what I have for us today. Thank you all for being here.